What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the weekly comic roundup here from Comic Drops, where we talk about and discuss some of the week's latest releases in the world of comics. Joining me again today, as always, is my good friend Andrew Lilly. So, how are you doing, man?
I'm great. Let's talk some comics today. Short list.
Yeah, a little bit shorter. So we could start off with Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, which I unfortunately did not get to pick this one up today. I've really been loving it so far, but it didn't grab this one yet. But what did you think of it?
I really like this story, and I really like this issue too. We'll just say spoilers because we got to talk about the issue, right?
Yeah.
So it follows. There's two stories basically. No, three. Sorry. Yeah, Hal Jordan. You've got the return of, or the close to returning Green Lanterns, and Guy Gardner. So basically, Sinestro he's positioned the Sinestro Corps as the ultimate peacekeeping power in the universe with the absence of the Green Lanterns. So that story is really cool. And we pick up the story where Hal was captured, quote unquote. But we find out it was Saranic who picked him up to make sure that Sinestro didn't get him. So she saves his life. It's really kind of a slow burn, I guess. I could see some people being like kind of iffy about that.
Not a whole lot has really escalated, I guess.
Right, it's a lot of build up
since the beginning of the story, but it's not. That's not to say that it's not good.
Right.
It's a very great book. Honestly, I've loved it so far.
Every issue I've loved, and I get why people wouldn't like it, but I'm loving it. I just think it's really building up to something really cool.
If you don't like a slow burn, I would recommend them picking it up on when it comes to trade.
Yeah.
That way you get all of the payoff immediately.
Yeah, agreed. And then we've got John Stewart leading the Green Lanterns, who are still lost, I guess, but they're making their way back to the universe, and they come across these other beings who essentially they've risen up because Sinestro has basically he's recruiting people, basically taking them from their homes and saying, well, if you want the protection of the Sinestro Corps, you need to give up so and so. You need to give up some of your sons or daughters or whatever for the Corps, and these people aren't happy about it, so they end up running into John Stewart and the remaining Green Lanterns to join together to fight Sinestro. So that's really building up to a cool story.
Okay, that's really awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Then you get kind of people that have been affected by the Sinestro rule and Reign of Terror.
Yeah, and then my favorite scene is between Hal and Saranic, and we haven't seen them interact since she became a Yellow Lantern, and the disappearance of the Green Lantern. So their conversation was really cool. Just he doesn't trust her a little bit now because she's wearing the yellow, and she's trying to say that she's still the same person.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, that was a cool scene. But yeah, it was a really good book, really good issue. Ethan Van Sciver's back, and his art is awesome. He's fantastic on Green Lantern books, so having him back was great.
I will pick this one up by week's end. I'm sad that it wasn't on my pull list today, but I'll get to it. Moving on to a book that we both picked up, I know. Detective Comics number
941.
941 came out. I should have known that because I remembered the last book was 940. But anyways, Detective Comics 941 came out today, and this is continuing the Night of the Monster Men story arc.
Yes.
Which it started in Batman number 7 or 8? 7? I want to say 7.
7. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was 7.
It was 7. But so it started in Batman number 7 and then continued in Nightwing number 5,
yeah.
I think. And now part 3 is Detective Comics 941. So if you want to catch up on that, or I guess if you don't want to get spoiled, you probably shouldn't listen to this part. But if you don't care and want to catch up on that, those are the books to read. But anyways, diving into this one, it's continuing that, and so we have Batman and Batwoman who are dealing with this giant monster in Gotham City. They've already taken out one, I believe.
Yeah.
They've taken out one, and they're dealing with the second one, who has these like 3 heads at the beginning, I think, and then they're just fighting him and trying to distract him. And Nightwing is going to Blackgate Prison because there's another monster there, and then Gotham Girl has shot past him and is going to save it, and that's not good because she's a hazard in the field, and because of Psycho Pirate affecting her and torturing her. And so and then Spoiler and Orphan are with the refugees from Gotham City that they're like kind of evacuating into these caves, and there's this like red stuff that's getting on them and making them all violent and go crazy. So basically the entire Bat family is just completely outnumbered and outgunned, and it's not good. And it's also like I've enjoyed this story so far. It's not my favorite. It's not like I don't think it's a great story. It's a crazy, like, wild, fun story, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very not normal Batman story. Like, whenever spoiler alert, the monster gets 5 heads at one point,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, that happened, I was like, wow, like, that is something. It's just a really crazy, wacky Batman story, like, dealing with all the characters. But it's definitely it's a very solid story,
Mm-hmm.
and well written, and it's also tying in more to Hugo Strange and the Psycho Pirate and what's still been going on in the like Bat universe and in Gotham. So it's still dealing with the main story that's been happening, but it's just a little side extension. I think of it as just like a kind of side extension story arc. So they're doing this crossover. Yeah. But
yeah, I agree.
I don't know, I've enjoyed it, and the art was solid. But anyways, what did you think about it?
I'm gonna agree with you. It's a fun, like you said, side story. Obviously, it continues the Hugo Strange story. I actually think this is probably my least favorite issue of Night of the Monster Men so far. I'm liking how different it is, but at the same time, it kind of doesn't feel like a Batman story.
It doesn't feel like a Batman story, really.
No, and I don't know so I don't know how to feel about that because I kind of equate Batman with more realistic villains. I mean, obviously, they're a little fantasy, but a little more grounded in reality. And then to see a monster going through Gotham that's got
like
5
a literal
heads.
Monster knocking over buildings.
Yeah,
it's a crazy fun side story.
Yeah, and
that's.
I don't think it's necessary either. If you're looking to pick up this story, I think you could probably be okay not reading it. Like if you just wanted to read the whole Psycho Pirate story, I would think you'd be okay just stopping with Batman 6 and picking up Batman 9, and I think you'd
Honestly,
be okay.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, like it's a fun story. But I'm glad next week 2 weeks. We got one more rotation. I'm glad it's over with that.
Yeah, it's not a super long crossover. It's just a quick, and especially with the 2-week cycle,
Yeah.
makes it way better than how crossovers were.
Yeah.
Where even a crossover this length would have
This would
taken so much longer.
Yeah, this would have taken months. But yeah, I agree that it's a fun issue, if not completely necessary. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it too of Detective Comics, and this is like the one that I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like I was like, I've loved this is easily the least favorite issue of Detective Comics, but I also I consider this a different it's a side story.
Yeah, I agree, and so I'm not too harsh about it. I had a fun time reading it, but you know I don't dwell on it. I don't think about it too much.
It's exactly how it sounds. It's like Night of the Monster Men.
Yeah, you want a crazy, out of the world Batman story? Read Night of the Monster Men.
But yeah, sticking with the DC train, Flash number 7 came out today. Did you pick I don't think
I did not.
Okay, so this one's continuing. We had the last issue ended with, spoiler alert, obviously, but ended with Godspeed beating the crap out of Barry Allen, Flash. And so it picks up immediately where it left off. The cover, I must say, was awesome. Whenever I looked at the cover, I was like, wow,
that cover is sweet.
But anyway, so it picks up with that, and I really enjoyed this issue because Godspeed narrates for a lot of it. So you get, I'm just going to go ahead and say who it is, spoiler alert. If you probably guessed it, honestly, if you were reading the story anyway, but it's August, his detective partner, who's Godspeed, and he had used his powers to like killing criminals, and like he brought his brother's killer to justice. Godspeed is going around and killing criminals, and Barry's like, no, you can't do this. And so it picks up with him fighting Barry, and just, I really enjoyed the narration for Godspeed, and it's made him, I've been really, really tired of speedsters being the same villain for the Flash over and over again. And this has made him kind of different. I know that we get narration from the other villains, like that's not out of the ordinary, but the fact that he's a very much more empathetic, I guess. I completely understand where he's coming from and why like he's doing everything that he's doing, and that makes him so much more interesting for me and so much more fun to read. But it's just, and the art, I've loved the art in this book like since the beginning. I just think that it fits so well with the Flash and the speedster and style and motion and energy, and so that's another solid plus. But yeah, I've enjoyed this book. It was a slow burn, but now it's really like, this was probably my favorite issue of since Rebirth started for Flash. But
nice.
It's been really good, and I really love Godspeed as a villain, which I'm surprised about, and I'm happy to say. But yeah, I definitely recommend like picking it up. Or if you haven't picked up the single issues, wait for the trade and pick it up. I think it's a Flash story worth reading. All right, and hopping over to Marvel for a minute, Captain America. I had no clue.
Number 5.
Book. Okay, Captain America, Steve Rogers, correct? Number 5?
Yep.
Came out today. So, Andrew, how was that?
Oh, it's a good book. I'm loving this series. It's weird. It's a series that I is disturbing because just seeing Captain America work for Hydra, but you can't put it down because you want to know what happens next. At least that's how I feel about it. And I'm a huge,
so it has paid off. The Hydra twist has indeed paid off.
It has. My only concern right now is that I hope it doesn't overstay its welcome. I hope they can wrap up this Hydra business, within a couple months now. It's been going on since May. So
that's true. God, it's so crazy to think about.
Yeah. So maybe I'm thinking maybe a year. But anyway, let's get into the issue. So basically, this is a Civil War II tie-in, and it's actually pretty cool because it sort of shows that Steve has kind of been manipulating the events of Civil War. He's kind of in the background, sort of pushing against Tony and Carol a little bit. And
that's really interesting.
Yeah, and he even sort of, because his initial fear was that this Ulysses, who can see into the future, would be able to predict that Steve was part of Hydra. So he's trying to manipulate events so that these threats, the bigger threats, would arise that will get Ulysses' attention, because it seems like that's the kind of visions he has about these like world-ending scenarios. So that's why Steve's trying to manipulate it so these other events happen, and it takes the attention off of him. And so that's where we get into like Bruce Banner. So he kind of,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's crazy, honestly.
It is, and it's really disturbing because I'm like, oh, I can't believe Steve Rogers is the one who is essentially pushing these heroes to fight. And well, of course it's Red Skull, and but yeah, it was a really crazy issue. Really fun. It's really, like I said, it's disturbing because you think of the Boy Scout, Captain America, and then here he is, manipulating the events of Civil War II that ultimately led to the death of Bruce Banner, and just another war between the heroes. And it's just,
that's so wild to think about Steve Rogers playing a like pivotal hand in that.
It is. And honestly, I kind of hope that whenever they revert him back to being normal, I hope it's a big event. That'd be so fun to see, like Captain America taking on the entire Marvel universe and just like kicking their ass. That would be
that would be really cool.
that would be fun. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if he gets discovered in that. Of course, he gets emails from like Carol Danvers saying, "Oh, you're gonna hear some stuff. You gotta be on my side," sort of stuff like that. And then basically, Red Skull's the one. He's telling them, "Hey, whoever's gonna win, you choose their side." And basically, Steve's only objective is to get Ulysses and get him to Hydra. That's the only mission he has for Civil War. So it's really interesting. So
Sounds like a really, really great tie-in to the event.
It is. It's actually the one tie-in I thought was really good. Like, I actually think it's better than the main story because
the main story is kind of disappointing as of late.
Very disappointing. Very disappointing. But yeah, I recommend it. And I'm a huge Captain America fan, and so you'd think I'd probably hate this book. And yeah, I don't like the idea of him being Hydra because, I don't know, I think it could be a political statement or it could be just a way to destroy his character. But I'm liking it. I think it's going to be painful, but
it makes for a great story, and that's the entire point.
It does, and I hope it pays off at the end. But so far it's been fun. So don't let other fans tell you it's bad if they haven't read it. Give it a shot.
Okay, so I'm sad that I dropped that book. I read the first issue or two, I think.
Yeah.
But I'll pick up the trade eventually.
Yeah,
but,
I think the trade's coming out probably in the winter.
Hopping back over to DC, Batman Beyond Rebirth #1 came out today, which I was very much looking forward to, and the release date kind of snuck up on me. Did you pick this one up?
I did not.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I wasn't sure. But and so the Rebirth #1 was, as soon as I started reading it, I remembered that it was going to be more of like an origin and a recap of Terry McGinnis and
Right.
how he became Batman Beyond and everything. But I really enjoyed reading that, and also knowing exactly, because the Batman Beyond comic has been, the one that has been going on was tied into Future's End way back from New 52.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, honestly, the Batman Beyond, what's been going on with that, and then Tim Drake is crazy, and it's also tied into the DC universe a lot, like the story that's happening, and they've said that this one will be tied into the DC universe of like present day too, also.
All right.
Which I'm interested to see how that pans out.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyways, we have Terry McGinnis back, donning the cowl and wings, but it's really awesome seeing the just Batman Beyond and having it be Terry just back on the page, and it's cool because I'm such a huge fan of the show. Like growing up, I watched the show all the time.
Right.
And so it's really great reading that and being able to have that. But overall, it's a basic like if you know the Terry McGinnis Batman Beyond story, then it's very familiar. But that's to be expected with the Rebirth one shot. And so that's nothing to detract from it. The art, I will say, I don't know how I feel about the red eyes yet. They made his eyes red instead of, and like they're large, they're interesting. I don't know, but the art overall, I enjoyed, and it fit the style of Neo Gotham well, and so that was cool. But the overall story is basically it's him fighting the Jokers, like a gang of them, and then the backstory, like there's this crazy reveal at the end, which is not really a spoiler because Jurgens talked about it in an interview before. But this guy, criminal named Terminal, is trying to raise the actual Joker back from the dead. And so we're seeing, I'm very curious about how that'll play out.
Right.
But
sounds pretty interesting.
But overall, I enjoyed it, and it made me more excited for the actual #1 to whenever it releases.
Yeah.
Keeping with DC, Teen Titans Rebirth #1. Correct?
Yep.
It came out today, which I totally blanked on and forgot that it was coming out. But you picked that one up, and how was that?
This was my favorite issue of the week.
Really?
I thought it was great. It serves just what the Rebirth one-shots are supposed to be. Supposed to, introduce you to the characters, and it's a pretty quick read. It introduces you to Beast Boy, Starfire, Kid Flash, Raven, and it kind of just gives you a little bit about them. And I think the characteristics are fantastic. Percy nailed the voice of each character. And the artwork is so good. It is so good. Yeah, I would definitely recommend this. It's been so long since there's been a good Teen Titans book.
It's really great to hear that there is that all the characters are written very well, and that it's a great Teen Titans book, because the Teen Titans are such an awesome team and like a comic to read.
It is, and it feels just like a modern take on like the Marv Wolfman new Teen Titans. It kind of has a similar team, just a little more updated, a little more modern. You've got Beast Boy, you got Robin, you've got Starfire, Raven, Kid Flash. It's great. My only complaint is that it's a monthly book.
Yeah, that sucks, honestly. I read that, and that's a bummer. But
you know what? If it means that we'll have the same art and the same writing, I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah, that just means it's for a quality. The wait is for a quality book, and so that's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So give it a shot if you want. I loved it. I was smiling the entire time I was reading it. Yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Awesome. I'll pick it up soon. Keeping with the Teen Titans train, we'll go to their older counterparts, the Titans. They dropped the teen part. But it sounds like this. Did you pick Titans 3 up?
I did not.
Okay, so I'll keep away from spoilers, because this one is very much dealing with it gets very spoilery, and it's kind of important. But anyways, it sounds like this one is very much a reflection, or I guess the Teen Titans book is very much a reflection of this one, either or. But they're both just superbly, everyone's characterized extremmi well. The art is spectacular. Brett Booth, I cannot praise this man's art enough. The art is gorgeous. Brett Booth nails it, and then the character, like, the story itself is really, really awesome. And then there's a couple of hints at the larger DC universe story that's going on, because Wally is in this book, and Wally is such a key aspect, and so it's dealing with that. And I really, really enjoy that, because I'm so interested in what's happening with the time being taken away from the heroes and meddled with and everything. And so that's the driving force in this story, and that's something that's awesome. And then just the spectacular art and amazing characterizations make this, it's a great team book. If you like all of these characters, then you'll love the book.
That's good to hear.
Hopping back over to Marvel for a moment, Spider-Woman, not even gonna try to guess.
Number 11.
Number 11, come on. That's really bad, honestly. I always say it, but I need to keep up with Marvel more. I need more time in the day. Anyways, how was Spider-Woman number 11?
It was actually pretty good. I haven't been a fan of this run, but I wanted to see the new artist who will be taking over the title during Marvel Now, and I thought, what the heck, I'll try it, because it's a Civil War tie-in. I wanted to see what was going on. It shows that Jessica Drew had a close relationship to Bruce Banner. They were really good friends. And then so she's grieving over his death, and is pretty upset because her friend and ex-boyfriend Hawkeye was the one to kill him. So she's pretty understandably a little upset. So she wanted to get to the bottom of this and figure out whether or not these visions that this Ulysses was having, if those were actually true. So she breaks into Banner's lab to try and figure out what he's been working on and whether or not he was a threat. And that part I actually liked, because it really shows her as a private investigator, which she is. And so I like that. And then it killed the entire tension of the book by bringing in one of her supporting characters called Roger, who's also known...
That's such a bummer.
It is, and his code name is Porcupine, and he's he literally dresses up as a porcupine. And I've been wanting this character to leave for so long.
That sounds like such a bad idea.
It was, and it's like I was so into this issue too, and I was like, man, I got hope for this book. And then he shows up and killed all the tension of the issue, and I just could not take the book seriously. Finally, he disappears, and it gets back to being an okay story. So she
just
goes.
had an annoying interjection.
Yeah, I was like, oh, was he really necessary to bring in? And then she goes and she's like, well, I need to talk to Clint. I need to hear his side of the story and why he did it. So she goes in to break into the Triskelion, which is the headquarters of the Ultimates, and Alpha Flight, which is Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. She kind of runs that. So she's sneaking in to talk to Clint, and then she runs into Captain Marvel. And these two are really good friends in the comics. They're basically best friends. And they're kind of at odds now because Carol's been pushing this whole, if he sees it, I'm going to act on it. And
which I think is, they've written, I'll digress, I suppose. Never mind.
No, I agree. I know what you're going to say. And they've written her terribly. And
Carol she's so obviously, the point of Civil War is that I'm going to go ahead and say what I was going to say.
Yeah,
the point of Civil War is that you're supposed to be, like, struggling on which side you want to choose. And, like, there's not supposed to be a villain. They're all the heroes. And the conflict is that your heroes are fighting each other. There is so obviously a villain in this, and it is so obviously Carol.
It is.
You are supposed to dislike her. You can tell that there's a bias towards Tony, and it kills the Civil War aspect for me, and it makes it really disappointing.
I completely agree with you, and I don't know if that's an editor thing or if that's just Brian Michael Bendis because he's got a sweet spot for Tony Stark. Because, like you said, the point of Civil War is that you should be struggling to pick sides, and neither.
I'm not at all.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone is really.
I don't know how anyone can choose Carol's side. You'd have to be dumb to pick her side. She presents no evidence whatsoever except the visions of a 19-year-old kid. And you're going to take that as fact? It's just ridiculous. And so it goes into this story, and Jessica Drew is just like, is this kid even accurate? Or are you just, you're going to take it as it is? And it's just... So they have a little fight, obviously. I would too. And, going back to Spider-Woman, it was a good issue, minus the parts where they brought in Roger, because that completely killed the tension. Because, mini rant. Spider-Woman to me has always been a dark character. Every run I've read of her that I love has always had her as a dark and gritty character, and this book just is too light. It's like Squirrel Girl, or more like a Spider-Gwen, and it's not my thing. And I don't know. I just when they brought Roger back in, it just reminded me of how much I don't like this series. And
it's so disappointing and upsetting.
It is, because I was so into it too. I was like, oh man, this book's actually good. And then Roger comes in, and I'm like, damn it. There's so much potential. But I will say, the new artist, Veronica Fish, is really good. She's good. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, because I looked up her work before and I was like, oh man, I don't like that style. But it worked in the book. So it makes me a little more optimistic for the future.
That's good. That's a bright spot.
Yeah, it is. So, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. If you would have gotten rid of her Roger
Porcupine.
And the fact that she has a kid, which is completely against her character, it would have been like a 9 out of 10. So...
Okay, so a few elements that just kind of bump it down.
Yeah.
Jumping back over to DC for the last book of the day, Suicide Squad number 3 came out today, which I picked up, and it's continuing the Suicide Squad dealing with General Zod, who they just let out of the Phantom Zone, and so that's crazy, and it just continues to be a very fun. Like the issue 2 very much picked up from the first one. The first one was a repetition of kind of the Rebirth issue,
Mm-hmm.
but then the second one definitely picked up and was a very fun Suicide Squad book. It hit its stride, and this one just continues being that fun Suicide Squad book. It feels, if you liked the movie, if you liked the last issue, you'll love this one. It's just a continuing the like action ride with the entire squad, and everyone bounces off of each other. The everything that happens just like it feeds into itself, and it's not the best written story or book, but it's what you would expect and hope for from a Suicide Squad book, I think. Anyways, you get all of the characters definitely have their moments. They all have their lines. They very much feel like themselves. The art, Jim Lee. I mean, what can be said about Jim Lee's art at this point that hasn't already? The dude is an absolute beast. And so that's always it's awesome to see the characters drawn by Jim Lee. And so it's just if you want a fun Suicide Squad book, then pick it up. And the previous issue, the cliffhanger at the end was pretty crazy, and I'm very it's got me. I'll definitely be picking up the next one. And also shout out to the fact that Jim Lee draws Rebirth on Harley Quinn's shirt, because that's really cool, honestly. But yeah, if you want a fun Suicide Squad book, pick it up.
All right.
All right, well, it looks like that wraps it up for our list today. Anyways, I guess now we will shamelessly plug our social medias. So, Andrew, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm on Twitter at AndrewWriter. Come on by, talk comics.
Awesome. And you can find me on Twitter at APBatman with 2 T's. And just come by and talk comics, movies, Batman, anything related to that. Again, if you have any books that you want us to pick up and we don't even mention or acknowledge ever, be sure to leave them down in the comments below, and we will try to check them out and maybe pick them up and then talk about them. And as always, be sure to keep it locked to Comic Drops for all the latest drops in superhero news and entertainment. Later.